Death is like the wind, always by my side.
What is up, guys? So I wanted to do another follow-up video on the new item builds. This time we are on 13.11 and we already saw the patch notes for 13.12. So last time we did the video as soon as 13.10 dropped about the 5 builds. So now since things got nerfed, we've kind of narrowed it down. So I keep getting this question asked a lot in my Twitch chat about what do you build on Yasuo. So I may as well just make another video on it so I could just link it so I don't have to answer the same question over and over again. And yeah, the other one's outdated now. So yeah, let's get into it. So right now, yeah, the starting, just ignore that, it's just always D-Blade. I think D-Shield on Yasuo is very fake. But yeah, so we have 3 builds right now. We have the Kraken BT build. So this is when you are against a lot of melee champs. So not if you don't want to build this when you're against like a mage, Kindred jungle, all that. So think of a game, let's say you're playing against, I don't know, like a Kiana, and they have like a Xin Zhao jungle, and a tank support. So just a full-on melee team, and most likely you're just going to be focusing the first target, right? So Kraken is really good, because you don't need to gap close on those champions, right? You just need raw damage, especially when you're going front to back. So yeah, for those games, when you're against a lot of melee champs, we go Kraken into BT. And then, as you can see, I put a shit ton of mythics here. So obviously you can't go all of them, but this is why this build is very fun, because you just have so many options, right? So I'm not going to say any of these are objectively the best. It's honestly just comes down to your playstyle. Some of these I think are kind of wonky, but I added them anyway. So personally, my favorite is you just end the build with Gale Force at the end. I think it's perfectly fine if you just want that extra like damage and range. It's good. Or Stridebreaker or Triforce. Just because you get that somewhat bulkiness and you do a lot of damage. The thing with Triforce though is that it's a really stupid reason too. When you're playing Nightbringer skin and you go Triforce, you get bugged. Like every time you Q, you just walk really bugged. It doesn't actually affect the gameplay, but I mean, it tilts the shit out of me. So that's why I kind of like Stridebreaker more, just because it doesn't like mess me up in that aspect, and it does a lot more damage. It's gonna be more bursty. So this is more bursty and like the slow. So I've been seeing pzzzang do this a lot. So I think it's perfectly okay. I think these are the top 2. Stridebreaker and Gale Force to end the build. Iceborne is okay. Again, the example we're against like a Xin Zhao plus Kiana, or like a Zed. Iceborne 3rd would be really good for that extra tankiness. IE, I don't really like. I still think it needs a buff. It's just, it doesn't give us that bulkiness, and like we don't really need the damage, because we already have a lot of damage with this build, right? Divine, very, very niche cases, if you're against like Scion and like people who just have like 10,000 health, right? Then maybe. This one I actually think is kind of cool. I've not tried it out yet, but since Dustblade is probably like the best item on the patch, that and Triforce, there is potential for this. So maybe you guys can try it out. I kind of want to try it out myself, but I'm just thinking like after you get 3 items, you just like ult in, you kill one guy, and then you're untargetable, right? So it has potential. It just sounds kind of hard to use, right? But yeah, it sounds pretty cool. And Eclipse, I think it's playable. A lot of people like Eclipse. Personally, I don't really like it, but yeah, if they're just like more on the tankier side and you want that lethality, you can go this and Jackshow. Jackshow, I'm not gonna say it's bad. It just gives you pure tank stats and like no real damage, right? So a lot of people don't like the playstyle of just being pure tank, but with this build with Kraken BT, you're already doing a decent chunk of damage. I think I actually use this build, the Kraken BT into Jackshow. It's for when like you're just against those comps where you cannot survive. You need that ultra or extra bulkiness. Let's say you're against a Renekton Fiddlesticks. How are you gonna play against that? Jackshow. Any other item you go, you're just gonna die. So yeah, hope that covers the what you want to build into melee lanes, or not melee lanes, but melee team comps for the most part. And here we have a Gale Force, a Bloodthirster. Basically the standard right now. The opposite of Kraken, when you're into a lot of range and you want to gap close. Yeah, it's just standard. But the thing is, what just got released, or announced in 13.12, is that they're gutting Gale Force. They're making it scale off AD instead of our crit chance. And guess what? That hurts Yasuo and Yone the most out of any champ that uses this item, because we have double crit chance. So this actually kind of kills the item, in my opinion, unless you really want that dash. Which is why I made this. I think this is going to be the go-to against range now. So basically it's the same thing like Kraken, But instead of Kraken BT, you either go Storm or PD. I'm not going to say which one's better, because they kind of do the same thing. They both give you that gap close. So it's whatever you just like more. Like, some people are going to like the Storm Razor, like, super movement speed, and some people are going to hate it, because they don't like trying to save the active. You know, like, they want to EQ onto a minion, not to worry about losing the active energized effect, right? But this is way more burstier, whereas this is more attack speed, so it's going to be more, like, damage over time. If you can just, like, sit on the person instead of just, like, boom, one shot. So this is what I think is going to be the go-to. Obviously, the patch did not hit live yet, but wanted to make a video for this patch, and we can put it for the next patch since that got announced. I predict that Gale Force is going to be awful in 13.2 or 13.12, and this is going to be the go-to against range lanes. Or, again, not lanes, team comps in general. Just when they have a lot of range champions. Kindred, an AD carry, range support. You want to go this. And here we go, talking about the situational items after the builds to build your core. Which would be Death Stance, obviously if they just have a lot of AD. Very solid OP item. Kraken if you just want that extra tankiness. So obviously this wouldn't be included in the if you went the Kraken variants. But let's say you went Storm Razor, Bloodthirster, and they just have that like one front line, then you can go Kraken. It's gonna be rare, but like maybe sometimes. GA is just solid if you're like kind of poor, you can't hit those like Death Stance power spikes, or the next fight is just gonna end the game, right? So GA is just gonna be better than Death Stance. Cleaver, I actually kind of liked Cleaver in one of the games I played. I went Kraken, it's a BT, Dzukill, and a Cleaver. And Cleaver amps your Kraken damage too, because you're lowering their armor. Kraken does even more AD damage, right? So, felt kind of good. I would only go this if they're super tanky, and like you don't have anyone else who builds Cleaver. Sterix, I'm not including Shieldbow, and in the new patch they're actually buffing Shieldbow by 3% more lifesteal. In my opinion, does absolutely nothing. So it's still going to be Sterix, it's just always better than Shieldbow, in my opinion. And then we have Wits End, just if they have a lot of AP. Maul, if you want a little less damage than Wits End, but more tankiness, and you want AP. QSS, always go Silvermare, it's better than Scimitar. And this, if you just have like a Soraka plus Ivern or something like that, it would be very valid to go this. Oh, and they are nerfing Bloodthirster next patch. They're upping the goal by 200, but which is why a lot of people are like, hey Tempest, what about instead of BT we go Shieldbow now? Because they're upping the Bloodthirster gold by 200 more, and they're upping the lifesteal of Shieldbow by 30%. But in my opinion, you're just going to scale so much worse. Because BT, they're not changing anything on the stats. They're just increasing the gold, which is fine. I think the item is broken, which is why I think we're still going to go it. Just because the item gives you so much AD. And if we're not going IE, like let's say you go like Gale, or we're not going to go Gale Force next patch. Let's say we're going Storm Razor into Shieldbow. That just sounds so little damage, in my opinion, scaling-wise. So I still think Shieldbow's dead. And if you want that shield, you're going to be going Sterix, third item in those games that you want the shield, the overall shield. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was just to talk about top lane Yasuo a little bit. So you don't have to always go Bork and Hullbreaker, but let's say you are playing Yasuo into a Malphite. You're playing Yasuo into a Pure Tank Cho'Gath. This is when you're going to want to go that Bork, right? Because no other item you can't play into Malphite. You're going to try to go Storm Razor? I mean, it does some magic damage, but it's not going to be enough. You can't go Kraken because Kraken's physical damage now. And yeah, so those would be the rare games. I mean, if you're in a situation where you have to go Bork on Yasuo, it probably just wasn't a good Yasuo game. It's because I really don't like this, but yes, I would only go this against like Cho'Gath, Mundo, and who was the last one I said? Cho'Gath, Mundo, Scion. Alright, I feel like I said one more, but yeah. Whatever Malphite, yeah. So yeah, just because the lane is completely unplayable if you don't go that. Or maybe you can go Wits End first, but that's not too good. And Hullbreaker is just really overtuned right now, so only build this as a top laner. I kind of like this more on Yone. Haven't really tested it much on Yasuo, but again, if you're going into a Yasuo game and you're thinking like you have to go Bork and Hullbreaker, probably isn't the best Yasuo game. Yeah. That is all I have to say about the next two patches. Just wanted to do another video since The 5 item builds have been narrowed down to, well, now they've been narrowed down to 2. But again, you could still keep abusing Gale Force BT on 13.11 until 13.12. I don't think Gale Force is going to be completely terrible. I think there are still going to be games that it's fine. But I will have to see the damage. So most likely, Gale Force is mostly dead. There's going to be like 2 main builds next patch. The Kraken BT and the PD Storm Racer next patch. They are buffing Static Shiv, but again, please do not go Shiv. I beg you guys. Do not go the Shiv item. I've seen it too many times. Inflating. Honestly, keep going Static Shiv. Keep making Yasuo's rune rate worse. We get more buffs. Thumbs up. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And yeah, if anything changes, I will obviously make another video on this. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.